fantastic guest today. We are talking about that four-star quarterback in last year's recruiting class, Carter Smith, what makes his game so special, journey to Madison, plus much, much more in today's Locked On Badgers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings. Today's episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at Monarch Money for 50% off your first year. And listen, when we get great guests, man, we don't waste any time. We jump right into it. We got Dan Smith joining the show today. Dan is the father of Carter Smith, last year's quarterback in the recruiting class, four-star quarterback, dual-threat kid. Dan, I just want to start here, man. How would you scout Carter's game?
I tell you, he's competitive as they come. I think he really thrives off, getting after it, getting hit, the good things about playing football. He's going to be super mobile. He's going to get out of situations when that pocket breaks down. And I really think his off-platform playmaking is what really makes him special.
Where does the competitiveness come from? Obviously, you were a former baseball player. Your wife, his mom is a gymnast. Like, is that from you guys? Is that something he developed?
So we've always, growing up, was sports right out of the gate. A funny story with flag football when he started at like 5 or 6 years old. We were doing a little flag pulling drill, and the little boy standing next to him looked at me and goes, "Why is he so serious?" I was like, "Man, I don't know. He's ready to go." But literally everything we did, boxing, football, gymnastics, it was just there for him.
You talked a little bit about early on, and I've seen this. You talked about this before in another article about flag football at an early age. And you're like, wow, he can really move. You're a baseball guy, obviously. That's what you played, professional baseball. Was it hard for you to see him go in maybe a different direction, or what was that journey like? And I know he played baseball in high school as well, but.
So, not many people got to see him play shortstop, but he was very smooth at shortstop. At first it was tough, but I think I always knew that he was going to be a football player, just because when he got out on that field, it was different. He was able to flip that switch and get after it. And it felt like, how to explain it? More so like just the contact aspect of it and the, teamwork aspect of it really, is what drew him to football.
There's a game where I would love for you to hit on this, where he hurt his AC shoulder, like hurt his shoulder, and probably should have came out of the game. Yeah. A lot of kids probably would have. And he said, "That's not going to be my last time on the football field. Put me back in." They came back in, didn't throw a pass, ran for 100+ yards to secure the win. What was that feeling like as a parent watching that?
So we live right next to the school. I went to the house and came back. The wife called me and said, "Carter's back in the game." I was like, I'm coming. That's just who he is. He did it. We went to Disney for the Pop Warner Super Bowl, and he had a game like that in the semifinals where he just gutted it out. He essentially is that's just who the kid is, to where he's going to go whatever it takes to win, and give his best. And I think the kids really, his teammates, if you watch that game, you see they really fed off of it when he came back in. And actually, we didn't throw. I think over the last 6 games this year, we threw like 45 passes or 55 passes because he really couldn't. Every time he threw, it definitely hurt him. But again, he definitely, like you said, he wasn't going out like that, and he had put so much into the school and that team, and his senior buddies, and it wasn't surprising.
Where does he? What's the next step for him, do you think, as a quarterback? Where does he still need to improve and get a little bit better?
Already we've talked a little bit. First time in an actual huddle this last week, I was like, dude, you had to walk in there with those giants of offensive line and be like, oh boy. But that being under center, He was under center when we were younger, but in high school, not at all. Being able to call the play rather than run off signals. Um, and then I think really, I don't think it necessarily get better. Just get used to having an actual pocket to throw from. Um, and receivers being in the right spot where they're supposed to be, those types of things. But I know he definitely takes pride in working on his footwork and his hips and his throwing motion. That's something he definitely takes pride in.
One of the things watching Carter's film on Huddle that I loved, I thought it was phenomenal, was on a couple running plays, he was the lead blocker, just decleating people, taking people out. I think our teammates are drawn to quarterbacks with that type of moxie, but are there any moments you got to kind of tell him, hey, you can't get hurt. You're the quarterback. Like, how do you find that balance with him?
So he told his freshman year, the offensive coordinator, Coach Vogelbach, he was like, "Listen, can I run the first play of the game so I can settle down here?" But no, he does know when to get out of bounds, and I don't think he's gonna come around the edge there in Madison and try to take on a 250-pound linebacker. But I mean, if he knows if it's crucial in the game, he 100% will. But I think with Coach Brady Collins, the strength coach has already put 20 pounds on him. I think that's gonna, really help that.
Well, let's talk about that. Like, let's talk about Brady Collins for a second. Your impressions of him and Carter's impressions of Brady Collins.
He was a big reason why Carter pulled the trigger. We loved him. We love who he is, what he's about, how he operates. And he told us, he's like, listen, I'm essentially put 20 pounds on him before you know it. And it didn't take but maybe 3 months. I think those two personality wise are match made in heaven. And, Carter will definitely, not that he wouldn't anyway, but he's definitely going to give that coach his all.
Well, and from I talked to Brady about this a little bit too. He's working on with the offensive lineman, which I love. I think that's going to give him a little extra. Those guys are psychos. And
yes.
From what you've said and what Brady has said, Carter is kind of a psycho competitively as well. I think that's a great match.
Yeah, no, it is. And that is just kind of who he is. He's a get down and dirty, hard-nosed kid. And that was a big part of choosing Wisconsin is, the type of kids he's going to be around, or most of the kids there are that way. And he saw that right away. And it's that old school, hard-nosed Midwest, smash mouth type program,
we live in kind of an age where a lot of high school athletes specialize. I'm going to pick a sport at like age 7. I'm going to play that year round. I'm going to get trainers. I'm going to go to AAU, whatever it is. Carter, to your point, played baseball, threw 91 off the mountain, gymnastics, boxing, football. How did that help him as an athlete?
It was the biggest help for him, I think, was the gymnastics. He absolutely loved that. And he was able to, the body control and the strength and the stability and, I'd say, really the agility side to side from 6 or 7 years old is when he started that made a huge difference. They're actually, I have organizations trying to get my daughter to specialize already in softball. I'm like, no, it's not happening. It just develops everything instead of, I look at a lot of these quarterbacks, they all throw the same, they all move the same. Like you're just creating these, so to speak, robots. And then I look at a guy like Patrick Mahomes. It was very similar, and I'm not comparing Carter to him at all. Move around and do things, and you see his baseball come out of him playing quarterback, and he's the best in the business right now.
Yeah, we would take him Mahomes if that's what Carter develops into.
That'd be great, right?
I'll say this too. I think there's a value in learning from different environments as a kid, different coaches, like being put in different situations. I just think there's a lot of value just as a person in growth in those areas.
I totally agree.
We'll take a quick second here. Very, very grateful for Dan's time. Quick second for our friends of the show. We're going to come back and talk about the journey to Wisconsin, conversations with some of those coaches, and why Madison. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick second for our friends of the show and a quick second to say thank you for everybody tuning in. Today's episode brought to you by our great friends over at Upwork. A lot of people have small businesses. A lot of people have side hustles, which is phenomenal. If you have those, scaling requires the right expertise at the right time. Upwork can help you find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts that can take your business to the next level. Right now, finding the right talent is incredibly difficult, incredibly important. Just like finding the right quarterback, you got to find the right pieces for your team. Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivers incredible results, fast and easy hiring. Right now, visit Upwork.com, post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com. Connect with the top talent. Grow your business today. Today's episode is also brought to you by our great friends over at Fabric. If you're a parent, if you're a dad, a mom, whatever it is, life moves fast. I have kids. Obviously, Dan today, our guest, has kids. When you have a family, one day you're watching them take the first step, and the next day, before you know it, they're off to college. That's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family's needs. As a parent, I always want to make sure my kids, my family is financially protected no matter what happens. So protecting my loved ones, you don't have to break the bank. You can get there with Gerber. Right now, join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to protect their families. Apply in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. That's meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health conditions. All right, let's jump back into this great conversation with Dan and talk a little bit about the journey to Madison. So
Yes.
It was a winding journey. I want to start with first offer, and then eventually you're to Michigan. What was it like, and how difficult was it to decommit from Michigan?
That was definitely you wouldn't wish that on any kid or family. It was kind of tough how it went down. But we understood it. It's a business. I want to say, who was his FAMU was his first offer, and then FAU came after that. And then we went through the gamut, and we didn't do the crazy camp circuit and all that stuff. He essentially got it off his film and coaches coming to school and seeing him throw. We love Michigan. It's very similar Midwest, hard-nosed culture. And obviously that didn't work out. And then when we got the opportunity to come to Madison and saw that, honestly, it was almost the better version of what we had. And I think Carter fits that culture better there than he would have over there. The Florida State was in the mix. He loved Coach Norvell there. Florida, North Carolina. We had some stuff in the works, but when we got up there to Madison, it was a no-brainer. That was the old school college campus. 85,000 people in the stadium jumping around like that. That's what he wanted. And to get around Coach Fick and, meet some of the players and Coach Collins, I think he knew right away.
Was that your first time in Madison?
It was.
What surprised you?
Really, I would say probably how much of a city it was. I didn't really anticipate that. Which I love because there's just endless stuff to do, especially for us as mom and dad and sister coming up, and we'll be able to stay busy. But it definitely right away. I mean, it was winter time, so we haven't got to experience the summertime, which I've heard is pretty incredible up there. But you can see, I definitely could send my son here. He's going to be safe. He's going to, be able to focus on his school and football, and that was really important.
Going back to that first offer, what was that like as a parent, as a dad, seeing your kid get that first offer?
It was pretty cool. The coach, they were actually at school, so the FAMU, they're allowed to, they have different rules, I think, because of where they are in their the FBS or however it is. So I stood there and listened to the coach offer them. It was really cool. And then the next one with the coach from FAU was at our Key West game down there. And he's like, listen, I'm going to call the head coach and the OC, but we're going to offer you, just so you know, it was awesome. And, we're just grateful for the opportunities. And, we did get to meet a lot of really cool coaches and get to experience quite a few programs along the way, which was awesome.
Before we jump into a little bit more in Wisconsin, because I want to talk about Coach Grimes and Coach Fickell, what was the most difficult part of the recruiting process outside of maybe decommitting to Michigan? You mentioned you met a lot of great people. Was there any really frustrating part as a parent?
No, not really. I mean, because he made the decision with Michigan pretty quick, so there was almost a year where he essentially on cruise control, and in our eyes, that's where he was going, and then obviously that light switch flipped and completely changed. With Wisconsin, my only little concern was who they were going to bring in as an offense coordinator, and Coach Fick assured us he was going to get the right guy, and I was also very interested whether they're going to have a quarterback coach, and that was promised to us as well, and we just trusted, and I think Coach Fick hit a home run with both, so we're excited.
Well, let's talk about that, because one of the questions I actually had, and this came up, I mentioned we have a Discord, and I said, man, I might be able to get Dan Smith on. It'd be great if he's able to slum it with me for 20, 30 minutes. This question came up from Brett. He said, is there just a noticeable difference between the conversations between maybe Coach Longo, Coach Grimes, and then what is Coach Grimes like? What do you guys like about him as an offensive coordinator?
So Carter loves him. He's really old school, about his business. He's going to really incorporate the run game. I think he's really going to incorporate what Carter can do in the run game, the option and those kinds of things. And he's also going to throw the ball down the field, which is, I don't know if you saw, but the last couple of days they've already started. I've actually gone and I watched Kansas's replays almost daily to watch, and Coach Grimes he's so creative on the offensive side of the ball. I can't explain how excited I am to see what he's going to be able to do with Carter here down the road, and really implementing his skills in that offense.
And what was the conversations like with Coach Fickell? Like, what is he like one-on-one?
He's awesome. I keep going to the old school. It's just kind of how I was raised, just hard nosed, we're going to work, we're going to make you better. We're going to hold you accountable. But it's just super great dude. Got to meet his family and have breakfast. Like, you could tell he truly cares about his players, and his track record shows it, so we're super excited to see where he's going to take these boys.
Yeah, so are we. Another question here with Coach Guiton. You mentioned it was really important, the offense coordinator, obviously, and then a quarterback's coach. What have been the conversations with Coach Guiton, like the new Badgers quarterback coach?
So he and I have only spoke briefly just when we went up and dropped Carter off. But those two personality wise, they're a match. They're going to get along great. And I know Coach Guiton's going to push him to be great, which is is what he needs, and stay on him and keep him in the right direction. But he brings so much experience from playing the position at that high level. Essentially the best thing is that he's with him every day, and it's not just an OC that has to worry about the offense and the receivers and what everybody else is doing. Now he's got a coach that's going to be with him every day, and I think that's the only way that you're going to develop these kids. So that again, it's super exciting.
What are the goals? I know it's super early, but does Carter have any goals for spring practice for this first year? Like, what's the goal for year one in Madison?
I just for him, he obviously wants to play. He wants to be on the field. That's just who he is. But as a dad, it's for a guy like Billy Edwards coming in and Carter being able to see how he operates, how you run an offense, how you prepare, how you study. And then the game day aspect of it. He's going to get out there and there's going to be 85,000 people. It's something you got to get used to and be able to handle that. So I think he's just develop and continue to learn the offense. And when he gets the opportunity to get out there and do his thing, if he red shirts and has to have at it next year, that's no big, like, we're here to trust the process. His coach, Ryan Anderson, his defensive coach in Pop Warner, that was his saying, and Carter really lives by that. So, I think I don't know if you saw the video of the jersey number deal. So those are the things that's great. Like, there's a fifth year senior here that he gets to choose his number, and then you earn it. You know what I mean? But that's it. He'll continue to grow, get settled, learn how to operate as a college athlete, and then you just put yourself to, when you do get an opportunity, you're ready to roll.
I love it. Last question here, man. Again, thank you so much for the time. Message for Badger fans, just like what kind of kid, young man are they getting with Carter Smith? What's the message to Badger fans?
So he's not a social media guy. He's posts very rarely on Instagram, and that's about it. And I used to have to make him send out tweets. Very humble kid. He's gonna run through a wall for you 100%. He's every game, every time he's on that field, he's gonna be that guy. He's a fun kid. He's funny and loves to hunt and fish, and he's. I feel like I'm bragging on him, but no, he's just gonna be a good kid. He'll talk to you if you ever try to text him or anything. He's probably not going to respond. You better off trying to call him to get maybe he'll answer. Yeah, that's it. He's going to work hard, and like I said before, he'll be a Badger, and unless something drastic happens, like that's where he plans on being and where we plan on being.
That was phenomenal, man. Dan Smith, thank you so much for the time. I know everybody's really excited to see Carter grow and progress and be part of this Badgers program.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me.
How can you not love that? Coming up, I'm going to talk about why the upside is higher with Carter Smith and recap a little bit of what we talked about today's Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show over at Monarch Money. Do you ever sit around and wonder, man, where did my money go? Monarch Money is your CFO, personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control of your finances. Monarch Money, it's not just a budgeting app, complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investment, spending in one place, so you can just stop managing your money and start building wealth, because that's what we're all trying to do. We're not trying to spend our entire day managing money, doing budgets. We're trying to build wealth. Well, use tools to help you get there. Monarch Money is that tool. It gives you insights. It lets you know where you're maybe spending more money than you realize you are, so you can cut that off and start building wealth. It also makes managing money with your partner easy. You can collaborate, personal share accounts, set goals, stay on the same page without any stress. Right now, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Let's talk about the upside here. So first of all, let's recap. Plays through injury, tough as nails, leader, wants to be in a place and build a legacy, has already put on weight, enrolled early. Brady Collins loves him. Hard worker, will run through a wall, wants to play in a hard-nosed style, loves Coach Grimes, trusted Coach Fickell. It checks every box. But here's where the upside with Carter Smith is a little different than traditional quarterbacks. And we hit on it a little bit in the interview, specialization. So many quarterbacks, and this isn't a knock necessarily, but they specialize early. They're going to every camp, every clinic. They're having a personal quarterback coach. They're going to the Elite 11. They're throwing year round. They're going to summer circuits. That's all they do. And when you get a multi-sport athlete, they may be a little behind the curve from a technical aspect because they haven't thrown as much, but that means the upside is so much higher, right? Because once they devote themselves to football, or whatever sport it is, like kids specialize in all sorts of sports. But once you devote yourself to that sport, there is a ton of unlocked potential. And you've already seen what Carter Smith can do on the football field. The intangible box is checked. The point guard, I would say point guard, catcher, and quarterback, those are such intangible positions that if you check that intangible box, the mental toughness box, the leadership box, just the physical toughness box, you're ahead of the curve. Carter Smith checks all those boxes. And I can say that confidently, having talked to several people now that have worked with him, some people on the staff, talking to his dad, reading the story about him having an injured shoulder that should have shut him down and said, no, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to run the ball and we're going to win. I can't throw, but I will power my team to a victory by running the ball. I think he checks every intangible box that you look for at quarterback. He's got the physical skill set. quick feet, big arm, right? I think some of that comes from being in gymnastics. Some of that comes from being in boxing, probably footwork, playing shortstop, footwork, that quick snap arm coming from baseball. His dad was a pitcher. Let's not get the cart before the horse, right? We're talking about a very young man. There's a lot to like here. I think that's where we settle. There is a lot to like here. There's a lot of upside, a lot of potential. He could start next year. Like Carter Smith, we'll see. And I think they'll probably go to potentially, depending on how Daniel Neal and how Carter Smith look this year and what they do in this 2026 recruiting class, they could go to the portal again next year and find a veteran. That wouldn't shock me, because there won't be a lot of experience in this room once Billy Edwards Jr. moves on. But if Carter Smith puts together a good year working behind the scenes this year, if he makes a lot of progress this year, gets the playbook this year, that could be your starter next year and for the next 3 years. That's the type of thing you're looking at potentially with Carter Smith, is finally the revolving door at quarterback for Wisconsin, where it's portal Tanner Mordecai, portal Tyler Van Dyke, portal Billy Edwards Jr. Carter Smith is the type of guy that can end that revolving door. Big year this year, has to develop, but you look at a guy with the physical tools. You look at a guy that I think checks the intangibles boxes. You're looking at a guy who I think is going to be able to play really well in Coach Grimes' system, that wants a dual threat quarterback with some toughness. I don't know, man. There's a lot of places where a redshirt freshman quarterback starts. There's a lot of places where a freshman quarterback starts. We really could be looking at our quarterback for the next 3 or 4 years. I'm very excited to see how he progresses. Excited to get down to spring practice a couple times this year to see him in person. But there is a lot to like there. And I'm excited to see it. Thank you for tuning into Locked On Badgers. As always, when you're done here, go check out right now. Go check out the Locked On College Basketball Show with Isaac Shade and Andy Patton. March is here, so be the most informed college basketball fan throughout the madness. Find Locked On College Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, appreciate Dan for jumping on and giving us a little bit of his time on Wisconsin, and we will talk later.